Hello and welcome to another Game Nexus arcade video. Today we're going to be taking a look at, as you can see on the screen here, this is Dead or Alive++, released in 1998 for the Sony ZN arcade hardware. Now you'll see here is our arcade board here. Now the way this differs, just about any of the other ZN boards, is it's a standard ZN1 baseboard, but then this top board here, which is the ROM board, is what differs. Now, the ROM board contains the BIOS in all the ROMs, so you can have the standard board, and then per manufacturer, you'll notice this one, I don't know if you can really see that, but it says Tecmo right here, screened right on the board, and then it says TPS, which is the custom BIOS that it runs. And now, one other thing I'll have to show you, which I don't believe was mentioned in any other video, is this wire coming out of here. This is actually just the floppy disk connector off of a computer. I actually cut the cables off, and it's connected into this guy here, which is a line out converter. It takes the amplified audio from the board, and then it converts it to unamplified audio, and then it can go through this cable into my amplified speakers. So, more or less, a roundabout way of saying it is it takes your amplified audio and unamplifies it so then it can be amplified again by a speaker system. Because if you were to take amplified audio and pump it into an amplified system, you'd probably completely blow it out. So that's basically what this is for. So if there's any boards that I have that are only amplified, I use this little guy here, which honestly is made for automotive stuff, and that fixes the problem. But what you see here, this is one of the promotional renders for Dead or Alive, and this is the infamous Kasumi one. And this is our test mode here. I could probably zoom in here a little for you. A little bit of a... But you'll see, here's our Dead or Alive++ test mode, and it looks like, yeah, just over 8 hours as of right now that I've been playing this board since December 24th, 2014 is when I actually received this board. And this has like your basic input test. You can see I have all 4 directions, and then I have all 4 buttons. Start. And then when I want to get out of this, I have to press start and the test button. So let me get the test button here depressed. There's the test button. And then here's start. And this really doesn't have all that much stuff. You'll see our gameplay options. There is like our endless mode. Nation is currently set to Japan because that allows us to see the endings, which they're really just text, which if you saw my Dead or Alive series video I made several years ago, it's basically just a text-only ending, but I just think it's kind of cool to see that. So I'm going to get out of the test mode, and we're going to get right into this and take a look at Dead or Alive++. This will be, honestly, the first of a few videos. The next video coming maybe in a few days, but this is just going to be your quick first look at something actually captured from the real arcade board here. So we're going to exit test mode and get right into this. And as you can see here, it displays the Tecmo logo, and then here is our title screen. I really like this title screen. I like how it displays all the characters, and of course the new Tina with blonde hair as opposed to her most of her Dead or Alive PlayStation and Sega Saturn appearances where she was a brunette. And then in the background there you'll see how it rezzed in another picture of Kasumi. And sadly, unlike the PlayStation or Sega Saturn versions, it actually doesn't have any kind of intro or anything. So you just saw Zack and Tina fighting there in their newer outfits. And then you'll see all the characters are available. I'm just going to select Bass here, or as some people call him, Bass, in his recolored outfit. And what I have actually done here, there's no way of actually telling until you see right now, is I've actually put the game in burst mode, which means there is no safe zone. The whole stage is danger zone. The way to do that in the arcade version is when you're hitting start, just like with the extra costumes code on the Dead or Alive 2 arcade version, you press and hold all 3 buttons in this, and then you press start. So if you played this in a real arcade, you'd have to coin up first, and then you would hold your 3 buttons and press start, and then that puts the game into the burst mode, and you can select your standard tournament mode or your arcade, or your tag team mode, quote unquote. And one thing I definitely have to say is, even though this is running like on a standard PlayStation spec, you really don't notice all the detail in some of the textures, especially like some of these newer costumes, like what Bass has here. What Ayane has is just her standard Dead or Alive costume, so it's just what you saw on PlayStation and yeah, PlayStation. There wasn't a Sega Saturn version that actually had Ayane. And I definitely have to say I love all the new music that got brought into Dead or Alive ++, which unfortunately, since it was such like an appreciated release and like not known by a lot of people, to my knowledge there was not a soundtrack CD, which would have been really awesome, because I know there was a bunch of Dead or Alive soundtracks for both the Sega Saturn and PlayStation versions. And even there might have even been an arcade soundtrack, because in Japan they really like their soundtrack discs. And that's one thing I think is really cool, is even though this is like a PlayStation game, they went to the trouble of moving the mouths, because there's so many games that like were made in this generation that they just basically thought it was okay to have a character who talks, but there's no mouth movement at all. And it's not like that's something that couldn't be done, it's, in my opinion, just lazy developers. And you'll see Li Feng there was wearing one of her newer outfits that only got introduced in the ++ version here, and some of them were actually seen in the PAL version, which was released in Europe. But unfortunately in the USA and Japan, none of these new outfits or any of the new stuff actually got put in those ports, because they were done first. And from what I understand, the European version, or the PAL version as often referred to as, and the ++ version were both released around the same time, so that's why stuff kind of went back and forth. And here is Genfu with his outfit with the hat. Unfortunately here, unlike later entries in the series, his hat does not fall off no matter like how hard he gets knocked around. But it's one of those outfits that's really cool to see Genfu wearing it. And even though I'm not the best person with Bass, I honestly only actually like fully lose both rounds twice. I lost once to Kasumi, and then I lost a bunch of times to the final boss of this playthrough, which was Tina. Because, honestly, when the AI plays as certain characters in certain levels in this game, if you're not like really good, like let's say I am with Kasumi Ayane, the AI will take full advantage of your shortcomings, so you gotta watch out for that. Because I can remember I was trying to do some like simple punch and kick moves, and either Tina would do like a throw, or she just continuously counter them. And now one correction I want to make, which I probably had mentioned in the other video, but it's not something that actually is true. But in the earlier video I might have said that the game has a 6-point hold system. That is true and false. And then of course here's Kasumi, and I love this remix of her music for this version of the game. It's one of many remixes of the song, but I just think it sounds really great. But you might have noticed a little bit of a jump there. Which wasn't all that bad. But what I was saying about the hold system is, the 6-point hold system only applies when you're actually in a stun. Otherwise, you press the hold button and back to counter just about anything. But when you're in a stun, then you have that very crazy 6-point hold system. So I'd imagine if somebody got really like good at this game, yeah, they could really do a good job even if they got in a stun. And then of course here is Zach in one of his more recognizable for Dead or Alive 2 outfits. And the song you're hearing right now is another song that was made for this game. I believe there are actually very few characters who have the same song as they had in any other version. I believe it was like Jan Lee was one of the oldie ones. And you'll notice that instead of being at the beach, Zach is now in this stage that Jan Lee used to be in. And then Jan Lee is actually, I believe, in the only new stage in this game. And also, unfortunately, they took Rido's music away, which is most commonly seen as the selection screen music. And what happens is when you face Rido, it just plays your character's music. So, it's kind of cool, like, for instance, like when I'm Ayane, I can actually hear that really cool Ayane theme, or when I'm Kasumi, I can really hear her like, remix theme. So, it is kind of cool to be able to hear your music, but I can honestly tell you, I like Rido's theme, and strangely enough, even though I've not found any place where it's actually used, there actually is a remixed version of Rido's theme in the actual test mode. So if you go in the test mode, and you go through all the music tracks, there actually is a track for Rido, but I can't find anywhere that is actually used. And as I had mentioned, this is the new remixed Bass theme, which you may have heard in the beginning of the video in the intro. This is one of those songs I think is really good, but I do have to go on record and say that I like his original Dead or Alive theme a little bit better. I thought it was a bit of a better theme in my opinion, but they're still both really good. And you'll see Rido is in his usual stage. And now, when I get into Tina here, you're going to see the time jump a lot. I think it was like 4 minutes and something there, because I had only lost one full time to Kasumi. Yeah, 4 minutes and 44 seconds. And now if you look at the top screen, 14 minutes and 8 seconds. It almost took me 10 minutes to get to a point where I could beat Tina here. So you can imagine if you've ever like played any kind of game where you just kept on losing and losing and losing. Yeah, it kind of did drive me crazy, and I couldn't see how like certain things worked and certain things didn't work. And you know when you get frustrated playing a fighting game, like after a while you're trying to like do certain moves and they just don't work because you're probably just not hitting the controls, because it's kind of like one of those like stressful situations. But it seems like after a while like the AI just kind of gives up, because she's still doing moves here, but she's just not doing as many moves as she was doing in some of the other bouts, if you will. And then here is ending number 8, which is dialogue. And of course, unfortunately at this time, since I am unable to read all the Japanese, I recognize a few characters here and there. I really don't know what happens here. If anybody knows Japanese and can tell me what is actually being said here, I honestly wouldn't mind it. But unfortunately, I have a feeling it's going to be one of those things like, until I know enough Japanese, I'll have to translate it myself someday when I'm actually able to do that. But I probably mentioned this in my video a few years ago, but I still say the cool thing here is just like a lot of the Virtua Fighter games, and of course the later Dead or Alive games, instead of showing that that like CG intro, ending, it just shows the characters fighting in the end, and shows like how you beat all the characters. And that's another thing that I think is weird. It shows the movie staff and the CG staff in the ending here, but unless there's some like magical way to unlock them or see them, I've not seen them at all in this version of the game. Just like the intro theme for Dead or Alive, like in the console versions, is actually in the data. Like you can access it like that hidden remixed Rido theme, but it never actually gets used as far as I can tell. And the cool part here is look at all the characters you get to put your name in. You can actually put like a real name instead of having to put just initials. Well, this has been another Game Nexus Arcade video, and I will see you later in more Dead or Alive++ videos. Bye.